No.
That's so awful.
War and Peace didn't last that long.
Right, just a minute or two. See, we're now streaming live to YouTube. We'll just wait till 7:30.
No. I'm trying to start with the parish council. No, but recorded, that's the problem. No, YouTube.
Mm. 1 minute to go.
Helen, Harrison.
Thank you, everyone. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say there's obviously an awful lot of work that's gone into creating the blueprints.
So did anybody want to venture out and heat wave today or not?
I went and cut the grass later on about 5 o'clock. But otherwise, no.
Where was the heat wave?
Oh, Geddington way, mate. Geddington way.
Really?
Yeah, we
Very
got it on
localised.
we got it via the ultra fast broadband, but you'll get it.
Well, you know,
Tomorrow,
today was start day.
Yeah. So lots of machinery with cones around it then, was there? Because there isn't Grafton Underwood and Grange Road.
Yeah. It may have been. God knows where, though.
Sorry.
It was good.
Sorry, Mark.
I told them not to hold their breath.
Nick, you're all ready.
Who's that? Is that Mark? Okay. That's
Yeah.
you, Mark. You're frozen on our screen.
Right.
Okay. Right. I think we better get started.
Let me just plug something in.
Okay. You know, this is on YouTube, Anita. You've now got 10 million people wondering what it is you're plugging in.
That was brilliant. Well, my friends from London who had watched one of these said that Anita was definitely the hero of the piece.
Right then, folks, let's get started. Right, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. We'll do apologies first. I think Mark might just be finishing off a meeting that he's had to chair in an emergency on the other line. So I think he'll join us as soon as he can. And I've had a note, Anita, from Paul Johnson, who's running a little bit late from work, will join us as soon as.
The same with David Rushton. He will join us. He thinks it'll be 8:15 before he's able to join as well.
Okay. No worries. Have we heard from Terry? I know obviously Terry is still fighting the good fight with the connection, so of course he might just join us in the next few minutes. Okay. Great. Any declarations of interest, please? No, thank you very much. In that case, item 2, I don't think we've actually got any members of the public have joined us. So have we had any questions sent in, Anita?
No.
I think there's been a couple of emails, but we might deal with those in correspondence. But
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I know, yeah, it seems more practical to deal with them within correspondence.
Sure. Oh, there's Claire coming in as well. We'll just wait for Claire to emerge. Perhaps she won't. We'll proceed. Right. Reports from county and borough councillors. Anita, anything from Victoria?
No, I send one each time, and you know, I tell her each time at the moment we're on virtual meetings, but she hasn't sent anything through, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay,
I was
then.
saying, you need to suggest you ask her whether whether the county council are actually doing anything. County councillors.
Hmm.
Because it's been
Maybe
months
slightly
since
more
we've had what
diplomatically,
we're
but
up
good
to.
idea.
Okay, I'll send her something, as you say, a little bit more diplomatic than that.
No, I think David's right there.
No,
Yeah,
no,
a
no,
polite
not
prompt.
diplomatic.
A polite prompt just to say, look, is there anything that you think would be of interest to us or our residents? I'm sure there is.
That's what I ask her each month. But yeah, okay, I will
Cheers.
send a reminder.
Thank you. And as I said, Mark's a bit tied up, I think, on other meetings, so he may come and do his piece, if anything, if he has anything in a while. Item 3 then, minutes of the last meeting. So first, approval of and this of course will be the main meeting held 10th of August, not the extraordinary meeting. So approval of those draft minutes, or any comments first on those? Peter, you're on mute, but please.
Just one error on them, and it's a typo because it was carried over from the July minutes. You've got under any other business that we should have an August meeting, and it was the minutes of the August meeting. So it's the final line that was on the July minutes. And
Oh yeah, that's what happens when you overtype. Yeah, apologies for that. I will take them out and recirculate.
Thank you.
Can I suggest, Chairman, there is little point in recirculating for that. Just take them out and we'll approve them subject to that being taken out.
Okay. All those in favour of those minutes then, with that being taken out? Or can I have a proposer?
Yeah.
David propose. Oh,
I'll second.
okay. David proposed, John second. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. I think that's a majority. Claire, are you with us? Okay. Now it's struggling. Adrian, sorry.
Sorry, while we're on the subject of minutes, and I know Anita's got a phenomenally busy job and does a fantastic piece of work. Is there any way we can get them earlier than we do?
Over to you, Anita.
and that's probably an old chestnut, and I'm sorry, but it would be useful.
Yes, I do agree with that, and I know we do have one or two conversations about this, don't we, Nick?
We do.
I do endeavour to get it out within 2 weeks. I don't very often succeed. I do try. I will try harder. It is difficult because I can only take any holiday in certain weeks of each month, so to speak, to do with getting obviously the information out for meetings, etc., and the week of the meeting itself. Like with the weeks that have just gone by between the August meeting and the September meeting, it sort of virtually takes sort of a week and a half, 2 weeks out of my month's schedule. So I will always try. I don't very often succeed, but I will.
That's good enough for me. Thank you very much.
I will try, because I do feel bad about it, but I just never seem to get them out as early as I'd like.
Bless you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Anita. I mean, I think all I would say is I mean, because I know we do ask you to do a lot, and there's lots thrown. If you want to push back at any point and say, look, is that like priority, or is that down the track, or anything like that, or is that kind of before the minutes or after the minutes? Be brave and push back, or I'll steer if I think, because obviously we all want everything done. You know, we're all passionate about it, but if we can be of more help to say, look, that's really a priority 3 after the minutes, you know, Anita, don't, you know, then perhaps, you know, if we can be more constructive, give it a bit of thought and come back and tell us off next meeting, Anita, if we can.
There is actually one thing on this agenda I have had to do that with, which you will see when I get to it.
Okay, Doris.
Warning
John.
you in advance. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
thanks, John.
What would be particularly useful would be if there's any actions, if we could make sure that we're notified as soon as possible if the minutes are going to be later, because if we're waiting for the minutes and unavoidably they're going to be nearer to the next meeting date, then if there are actions, they're not going to be done.
Okay.
Okay. I think we should all, if we can, try and take a note of our individual actions. That's a point Anita's made, and I support that. I'm one of those people not so great at that. I get lost in the heat of the moment, struggling with documents and windows and things. But yeah, I get the point, John. Also, I suppose it's also the holistic thing about what has been discussed in the meeting. And do we want that on the next month's agenda, or has it been discussed, or where did it get to? What was resolved? What was it that councillor took away? But yeah, if we can, I think if we can probably, Anita, I think probably more the key is we can't create more hours in the day, but if we can probably be a bit more helpful in terms of that actually is a nice to do.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Can't we do a quick summary at the end of each of our meetings and say what the actions are, and people take a note then if they can't follow it on the way through the meeting?
Yeah, that sounds like a fairly good idea. If we've got time to do that, we could be raking right back over things a little bit. David?
No, I should say welcome to Claire.
Okay, welcome to Claire. Okay, well, if we have time, Sue, then we'll endeavour to do that. Certainly, it makes a little bit of sense. Okay, right. Right. Well, in terms of actions, then let's get straight into it. So, item B, then, progress matters arising and progress on agreed actions. Then, and this is the bit where I'm kind of trying to share screen and look at everybody at the same time and things. So, running through. First action is, excuse me a moment. Right, GigaClear then. Clark to email GigaClear to find out when the laying of the golden gravel will take place. Did I see that is going to be next spring?
Yeah, they're going to do it all in one foul swoop, including the south side of Geddington.
Okay.
They did say last time, though, when I think they originally said that they'd do it this spring, and then they said, well, actually, you can't do it until the temperature's warmed up a bit, so it's more likely to be early summer.
No worries. I've just reminded myself that GigaClear is on the agenda, so we can cover that when we get to it.
Right.
And again, action 2 as well, in terms of where and when they'll be working, and again, I think that'll be superseded as well. I think Mark's at his other meeting, so I'm not sure about the lock and bracket again on that gate, which was a random action carried over. I think this next thing again, which is kind of action 12 from previous meeting, was the fence repair at the back of the recreation ground. Peter was going to say he was available to meet the contractors, but that looks again, that's been superseded and the work done, Peter.
No, yeah.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah. So I did meet them, and they did send the quote in, and we did approve it, and we ordered it, and they've come and done the work.
Great, thank you, Peter, for your going out there at least twice.
As well, and it's the work's excellent quality. So when it does crop up from the point of view of payment, and the invoice doesn't show on the finance yet, but when it does crop up, I wouldn't have any problem in paying it. Okay,
thank you. Right, action 3. So this was about kind of a bit of an issue which kind of emerged as a result of us discussing the large planning application. And this was about flooding issues. The clerk started a spreadsheet listing the incidents, at least since 2014, cross-reference to photographs when they're available. So it's like a meaty piece of work there, Anita.
Well, I have started it. I've gone through, well, actually, there wasn't many to go through. I thought, well, I'll go through all the minutes first of all, and then anything missing, I can look in the Dropbox. I've done 2014, that's as far as I've got. But we're actually, there aren't any minutes for April, May and June 2014. I think that's with the previous parish clerk with whatever happened to her, and me starting. September was my first meeting. So there's no point me looking in the Dropbox, but basically I have started it. The only thing is I need to know how you can, you know, in a spreadsheet, and you can put a little bit of an arrow in the corner of a square, and you click on that and all the other information comes up. I need to find out how to do that to save me having to keep photos in a different place. So basically I've started the spreadsheet, but I've got to get it a bit more refined.
Okay, thanks, Anita. Like I said, I think that's a big chunk of work, and I think that would have been those. That's great for us to have, but I don't think, would necessarily have needed completing. So please get on with that. I mean, if you need some help with that functionality, send a note to myself, David Rushton, and Mark. Well, I'm not saying I'm that IT literate, but certainly Mark and David are, and they might be able to help with that.
Right.
With that
Okay.
functionality.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Action 4, clerk circulate the financial regulations after the Word version is changed, but I think that's been circulated, and we've got that on the agenda tonight. Risk assessment register again, Adrian's updated that, and that's been circulated as well, and that's on the agenda. The scrolling down. Right, action 6. Let's just have a quick look at that. The clerk to inform the applicant of this date.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's shot off onto the next line, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. Obviously, again, that's been that occurred, of course,
yeah,
because the applicants
yeah.
joined us. Yes. Okay. So action 7 then. Email received by resident looking interested in town post office and shop. Clerk has to write to inform that she needs to contact Boughton.
Yeah, that's been done.
Yeah. Okay. Action 8, yeah, clerk has to contact Boughton Estates if the lease comes up for going to the open market. Could they consult with the parish council acting on behalf of residents as it an asset of community value? It might be worth pausing on this just for half a minute because it's not further in the agenda. I see Anita did do that, and we did get a fairly positive response. I don't know if that was circulated, Anita, or if I was just copied in. I can't recall.
Are you sure it wasn't just sent to you? Because I can't remember getting an answer from her.
They did. No, well, I've seen the answer. I think it must have been in response to what you sent. Basically, the answer was positive. It basically,
right. Okay.
It basically stated, yeah, absolutely. We'll come and talk to you first, effectively.
Right.
And I believe it proceeded to go on to talk a little bit about what they're trying to do at the moment with the current lessee. But it certainly acknowledged what we were saying, and that they would talk to us first, which is good. So whether that's us as a body or whether that's us on behalf of interested residents, I think we appear to have what we set out to achieve there.
What's that from Rachel? Rachel Gladstone?
I believe, yes, it was. It was.
Oh, okay.
Adrian?
Is there, I know some of that's confidential, but is there anything that can be fed back to us? I've not seen that. I don't think you've circulated that. Is there anything amongst that you can say now, or is that confidential?
No, there's nothing confidential if it's open correspondence to the parish council. It basically said they are going, that they're trying to do what they can in terms of legally with the current occupant. I can't remember exactly where they said they were, but they're certainly going down that legal course. And they also agreed, from my recollection, to discuss with us if and when it does come up, and consult with us over the next way forward. But that does need to be circulated. Sorry, again, that was another email I read, and I assumed that had gone to everybody. And if it hasn't even got to you, Anita, but I could have sworn it was a response.
Yeah,
from your email.
I cannot remember seeing it, but I had so many, a lot of emails when I came back from holiday. So it could be that I passed over it. If I can't find it, I'll contact you and ask you to forward it to me.
Yeah, just before we move to Sue, yes, please, Anita, just come back to me within a couple of days so we can get that circulated around, because that's the kind of thing that residents are asking most of us most of the time. Sue?
Yeah, I've seen that. The one that you've just been talking about.
Okay.
Oh,
Peter, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was, I mean, it was quite some time ago. It wasn't like in the last 10 days, 2 weeks. I mean, it was.
No, I seem to remember it was since the last meeting. That's all.
I can't
Okay.
remember. It might
Have a
be
look,
just
Anita, and
me.
let's get, even if we're recirculating it, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I will.
Okay.
It might be that old list that I've missed stuff on in the past. There's a list, there's a circulation list that I don't appear on and I don't get certain things. So just worth checking.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anita, if you could check that as well. Sorry to load up already,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
would be
will
good.
do.
And then poor Mount Habit either. Okay. Excuse me. Right, land registry and Jitty. So in terms of the first one, which was the Skeffington Close, took me a while to find the original email, but I think that's because it went to you, Sue, and then came to me, I think. But I found that and I finally responded to the resident about the status quo. But I'm not sure if I copied you in, Anita, but Scout's honour, I've done it. So I'll forward you that email which I sent to the resident. The next bit, though, was, of course, in connection with the Stone Pit land, which is probably an issue that we just can't, we do need to revisit again soon, and also about our approach there. The clerk to consult with Councillor Bailey, of course, and this is about furthering the registration of that land. Any movement on that, Anita? Any discussions with Terry?
No, I have actually apologized to Terry. It was only that was like the very last thing I did. This is the one that I wanted to say. You will see that, you know, there is one thing I had to put to one side. I knew it was a big job. I knew I wasn't going to be able to sort of do it, finish it, that's it. So I've got all the initial information I've got to do. I've also sort of got a prompt list for myself. Terry has got the documents he needs to get started with sort of, you know, the basic stuff that everybody has already had.
Okay.
So basically it's going forward from now, but I did try to ring land registry twice, but I was going to try and ring him a dinner hour today, but I wasn't able to do so. I just want to speak to them first as well, which I think will simplify matters. There might be a help guide for what you do for registering for land or what. I've put down what I think. I've sent that all to Terry so that, does he think there's anything I've forgotten that needs doing? But I just think if I can speak to land registry, it might simplify things a bit. So yeah, it's up there. It's right at the beginning, but it's up there, ready to start going forward now.
Okay. Okay, well, yeah, hopefully we can get that moving, because like I say, that's the first step to a you know, a scheme of diplomacy and discussion, I think, over the Stone Pit land and those leases. So yeah, if you just kind of keep us informed, or keep me informed, Anita, with just,
Okay.
you know, with your touch base with Terry, please.
Yeah.
And then okay, the Village Hall car park, they yes, we had a bit of a discussion over that, the kind of tendering process. Clerk send both packs to all councillors. I think you just circulated it, Anita, to
Yeah.
everybody, I think. Yeah, but again, we have that on the agenda to discuss. Okay. Village parking, again on the agenda. Floodgates and flood signage. Councillor Watson will speak to English heritage person. This was about the potential and what, just get some initial thoughts on gates.
Yes, I did. I sent an email certainly to you, Chairman, and to Anita.
Sorry.
I spoke to her. She said the first thing to do is to get permission from the Highways Authority, because until they say they're happy for something to be there, English Heritage won't want to speak. She did confirm that we will require their permission, because the land around the bridge is listed as well as the bridge. But until they're sure, they can, and they really want us to tell them what we want to do. She didn't know whether they could give us some advice on what would be the best type of gate. But once she knows that the Highways Authority would be happy for us to gate it, then she will give me the contact details with whoever it is that deals with that sort of thing at English Heritage.
Right. Because I don't think, right, because I don't, yes, I think we'll just have to something informal, which is really what you've got. But yeah, it's a slightly bit.
Part of the problem, I was hoping that she could, you know, pop next door to the guy and chat to him while she's in the office, but of course they're not in the office and haven't been.
Okay. So so we need to kind of further this on, don't we? By
we
having
need
a
to get an
discussion
agreement in principle from the county council.
from the Highways Authority and the county council.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just reading this. Okay, so we need to take this forward then, don't we?
May I suggest a very simple letter to them saying the parish council is minded to gate the ford in the centre of Geddington, whilst we appreciate that we require English Heritage Authority to do so. In the first instance, we would welcome your views on whether that is acceptable, and indeed whether you have any recommendations for the type of gate that would be most appropriate, and the type of control mechanism, because there will be a question of whether it's electronic, some sort of control, so that the emergency vehicles can get through.
Okay. That sounds like a good point. And obviously, we'll just have to make the point in that note, Anita, that it's the purpose of it is to close it, you know, for an incident or an occasion, mostly like a flood. It's not to keep closed effectively. So it's to have the option. The parish council to have the option to close. John, did you indicate a point?
Yeah, I did, but David's covered it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll get a response by next time. So, and then we can make this an agenda point and we can discuss specifically what it is that we'd be looking for. Again, maybe not exactly all the bells and frills, but the functionality of it, approximate size, approximate location. And no doubt we'll kind of speak offline. Preparation for that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Toilets, bench, dog. Damaged bench in the dog walking area to decide disposal or replacement. So Action 13, Councillor Rowley convey the message to the family. I'm not sure if that's done. Can't confirm with Mark at the moment. And Action 14, Clark to add the bench to the assets register.
Yeah, that's done.
Okay. Yep. And I think it was finally that nicely worded letter to the Stamford Road residents about the ditch clearances as well. Although I've got to be honest, I went up there the other day because coincidentally, I know you've done that action, Anita, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Two things I noticed. One, that either county or borough or somebody was actually clearing those ditches, certainly from the village sign on the Stamford Road and going heading up north to Corby. I don't know if they've come inward. Yeah. But secondly, I don't think there seems to be hardly any properties that actually, apart from those fields that we've been talking about, actually do border it anyway. Peter?
Yeah, I think it was, my guess is it's county because it was EW Pell were the contractors that were doing it. And they have been contracted often by Highways, and they did it all the way, to my knowledge, from the roundabout at Wheatley all the way through the village. So,
right.
And I was interested, as an aside, to see that along the stretch by the wall that was repaired in front of Boughton Woods, just along on the main road, they jetted through there, and it does discharge straight into the ditch that's along the base of the wall. So they were essentially just jetting through to make sure they were clear to go into whatever ditches were available on the other side.
Looks like they were clearing the gullies as well. I mean, they were getting spadefuls of dirt and debris out of those gullies. So, well, look, we can only hope that those residents see a benefit this autumn and winter anyway. Okay. Thank you very much. Right, anything else on those minutes? Any other actions or matters arising? Thank you. Right, in that case, moving on, juggling my virtual papers. Item 3C then, so approval of the extraordinary meeting draft minutes held 2nd of September. So obviously the kind of planning orientated meeting we attended then. Claire.
Hello. I noticed that my declaration of interest is missing. I did send you a quick note, Anita.
Yeah, I've sent you an email back. I've amended it on the copy I've got. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
There is a further amendment. Thank you, John. I put handwork part.
Just a typo.
And it's handwood, which again, I'll correct that as well. So I'm aware that there's 2 amendments.
Obviously, the main body of those minutes are the points that we made to discuss the white paper. So again, we've got that as an agenda item to just go through those and just see if there was anything at this stage that's glaringly missing from our deliberations, or indeed taking forward as well. So I just propose that we can discuss that then. Apart from those, any other observances on the minutes, or would anybody like to propose that are accepted?
I propose.
John, thank you. Any seconder? Peter, thank you. All those in favour of approving those minutes? Thank you very much.
Just one matter arising from those, Nick.
Yes.
And that was the statement I made in response to Sue's questioning about the use of the village hall. That was included on those minutes. And I did mention that the situation was, my understanding was at the time, that you didn't have to wear face masks once you're in the event in the hall. Circumstances changed from that to the fact that you do need to wear a face mask whenever you're in the hall. And now obviously the circumstances have changed that you can't meet more than 6 people anyway. So it all becomes fairly academic.
Do you want?
No, the minutes were correct in what I said. What I said was incorrect.
Right.
So I'm just making a factual correction.
Right.
Okay. And I think, yes. Okay, well, thanks for that, Peter. And I think all the other bits from that are captured in our meeting tonight. Okay. Right. In that case, we'll move to item 4, finance. Please, Anita.
Yep, the bank balances, as I sent out to everybody, community account statement as at 17th of August, £49,393.26. The business saver account, £10,778.18. There isn't any accounts for payment, except that the account, the payment that was approved at the August meeting, which was for the light, the village hall light by TG Electrical, it was approved, but I hadn't actually got I thought the invoice was going to come in imminently, but it didn't actually come in until what are we on? Well, about last week anyway. I obviously didn't want to pay it until the invoice had come in. It has come in the same as the quotation of £175, so it can be paid now, but it's already been approved.
Okay.
Okay, but there's no other payments. The quarterly clerk's salary should have gone in with, but I haven't been able to fit it in, so that'll have to be done next month.
Thank you. Thanks, Anita, for those first 2 items. And the third in finance was the amendment to financial regulations deferred from last month. I must admit, I've gone blank on this. Can you just remind us, please, Anita?
Yeah, the financial regulations, I circulated it in with all the documents for the agenda. Basically, it was point 5.5 of the financial regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to include that which says, the wording I put alternatively, it's talking about, you know, obviously payment. The point before is about paying by cheque. So 0.5.5 now says, alternatively, online banking may be used with 2 of the duly authorised counsellors approving specific payments from the bank account in accordance with the schedule referred to in paragraph 5.2. That's the schedule when I always tell you what invoice, what's got to be paid for that month. So basically I've added it to the financial regulations, and it's for you to approve the wording or otherwise.
It seems appropriate wording. David, any comment on that?
Yeah, seems all right with me.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any comments on that wording? No?
I thought it's fine. I thought it summed it up perfectly.
Brilliant.
It was just to address online banking, yeah.
Yeah.
Splendid. So can I just have a proposal then that we accept that amendment into the financial regulations? Sue proposed, I think just got ahead of Peter seconding. And all those in favour that we adopt that amendment. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much, Anita. Right, planning, Councillor Buxall.
Okay, decisions. Okay, we've got the first one is 2 Newton Road, and that was for a driveway widening, and that's been approved. The second one is for 17 Chaseview Road, and that was a 2-storey rear extension, and that's also been approved. And we have there was an appeal made for 1 Chase Hill, and this was for a really large side extension, double the size of the house, I think. And that's gone to appeal, and that's been dismissed. So that's not happening. Also,
that's interesting.
Yes. Basically the reasons were exactly the same reasons that we gave for not objecting to it in the first place. So you know, everybody agreed with everybody there. Except the homeowner.
Cost them a bit.
Can't have everything.
Yeah. Okay, so and then if we move on to, if I try and bring up some of the information that I've got and share my screen. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Oh, I can't share it at the moment. I can't do it.
Can you not, Claire? Sorry. Yeah, and Mark has got control of the meeting actually. Otherwise, I could have unlocked you doing that. Sorry.
Is he there?
He's just chairing another meeting, which needed his attention.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Right.
No, still won't do it. Okay.
Look, we should all have looked at those plans anyway. So.
Okay. Well, I'll just talk you through them. I will look at them while I go through it and try and describe these things. The first one is 8 Bridge Street, and that's replacement windows and doors in the conservation area. These are currently wooden windows to be replaced with UPVC heritage windows and doors. Personally can't see any problems. The neighbouring properties have had these same replacements made. But I can't show you. So this is number 8 Bridge Street, right down near the river, near the ford. Anybody got any thoughts? Anybody had a chance to have a look?
Adrian and Peter, please.
Yeah, the current ones are of absolutely no historical importance whatsoever. They're 1950s, 60s, they may be even 70s. So I don't have a problem with this at all, because if you look at, Claire's right, if you look at both the neighbouring properties, they've got heritage UPVC. So this one particularly stands out for all the wrong reasons. So as long as they use the right type of material, I'm fine with that.
Adrian. Peter?
Exactly the same. I was just the same point I was going to make.
Any more on that one, Claire, or is that it is what
No,
it is?
That's it. That's all it is. And I think the expiry for comments is today. If we have any comments.
Okay. Do we have a proposal?
I propose we accept it.
Oh, John.
Straight
Yep.
in there. Straight in there.
John, look at that. Hey, go on then, John. We'll give you that. John proposes we accept it. Anybody for seconding? Peter just beat Adrian to it. So thank you, gents. All those in favour that we have no objection to that proposal. Thank you very much. Thanks, Claire.
Okay, right. Well, the second one is for 17 Skeffington Close. Now, this is down the bottom of Skeffington on the left-hand side as you get towards where the road reaches its cul-de-sac, reaches the end. So it's on the left-hand side, it overlooks fields. And what the proposal is to put a bay window on the front with a canopy over the front door. And at the back of the property, they're proposing what they call a Juliet balcony with glazed doors. So it's just doors where an existing window is. And on the second floor, they're also putting a small balcony the size of a sort of patio door on the top floor, and also bifold doors to the ground floor, which is sort of immaterial really. It's just replacing existing doors. But I had a look, there's they're not overlooking anybody, and I can't see that anybody would have a real issue with this balcony and these doors. I don't think it will affect the neighbours, but I can't really show you the layout.
Okay.
Anybody
so
got any?
I think Peter just had his hand up there. Claire.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I think the only thing of significance is that's viewable from the street, and it's a bay window, as Claire says, and a porch, and there's nothing out of keeping with the bay window or the porch. It's just a slightly different front elevation to the front elevation that's there, but it's no fundamental change to it. And the work that's being done at the back would be viewable probably from the footpath through the field, but only just, and it's I don't see it as any matter we should be objecting to anyway.
Yeah, it's open countryside behind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments on that? Can I have a proposer then for something, Peter?
Yeah, there's no objection.
Okay. Anybody wish to second that? Claire, thank you. All those in favour of no objection? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. And the last one is, of course, Belton Wood Lodge, which we have all viewed, hopefully, by now and discussed. I don't know whether you want to look at it again. I can't bring it up, but just imagine it. Has anybody got any feelings on it? Because for me personally, I don't really object to it at all. It's not going to be visible to anybody. The chances are none of us will ever see it. It's well away from the road. It has some interesting, environmental ideas. Anybody else got any strong feelings?
John and then Peter.
Yeah, I mean, not particularly strong feelings. I think the environmental stuff is really, really good. I'd love to see that sort of thing happen in more housing developments. My only comment is the footprint. I don't think we're in a position to make a comment, a judgment on that footprint. I think that's down to the borough. But the footprint would be a planning issue. And I'm more than happy for the borough to make their decision on that, and for us to, well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have any objection at all, apart from just checking that out.
Thank you, John. Peter?
Yeah, to some extent, I'm agreeing with what John says, because the development of a new property, because essentially it is a new property in a rural setting, is against the national planning policy, and it's against the joint core strategy. However, that's up to the borough planners to decide whether they concur that it is a replacement dwelling rather than a new dwelling. And the applicants at our last meeting were outlining the fact that the work that would be necessary to do to the property would be uneconomical, and it still wouldn't be the sort of property they wanted. However, the logic is it's a 1730 built house, and under normal circumstances that would be in some way protected. It doesn't have its own listing, but it falls under the listing of Barton Estates. So the planners will take everything into view. As a parish council, I don't see any reason that we should object personally, because it's not visible from the road. It's up a kinked driveway. And in fact, if it was visible, it seems a very, very attractive building anyway. So I wouldn't offer any objection.
It's an interesting point, isn't it? Like, as we say, you know, what we can speculate what, you know, the KBC planners would say. Yeah, we consider things, you know, the material considerations, but particularly we're here to flag things up positively or negatively that may not otherwise be seen. Thinking both the applicant and the residents. I think in this case it is what it is, isn't it? There's not a lot we can necessarily information we can bring.
I think our role in looking at local applications should be very much a question of the local perception of it, the local impact of it, rather than us. And obviously any criticism or complaints we have would have to be based upon planning grounds. But I think we take the local view, and then how does it tie in with national planning policy framework? That is for the professionals to do.
Yeah, there's and so it's all about the location, isn't it? It's, if it was on Bridge Street, we might have something a little more to say. Okay. Does anybody else have a comment on this after John and Peter? Okay. Yeah. Could I have a proposer or a proposal, please? Peter.
I propose we don't have any objection.
Yep. And John?
I'll second that.
Second that, thank you. All those in favour of proposal, no objection. Thank you. Abstain? Against? Great, thank you very much, everybody.
I'd also just quickly like to add that our own planning application is currently live. We did get a letter saying, would we like to comment on it? But I don't think we should. But that's application number 0199, if anyone wants to have a look.
Well, that was what I was going to offer as the village car park update. So we'll skip that now entirely.
We are racing through. Thank you.
Well, and that's all I've got today.
Okay.
You'll be pleased to hear.
No, thanks very much, Claire. That's really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Well, not away from planning entirely then. So item 6, the white paper, planning for the future, finalised comments for submission. I think just a couple of points of order on this. I just want to check again, Anita and Claire, when is the deadline for submission? Because I had it in my head, it was after the October meeting. Not need to say we need to do our homework on the bus, but I just want to check that first.
The 29th of October for this one.
Right.
Pretty
Because I think
sure
what
it's
I think what,
29th.
if I have it right, what we resolved to do at this meeting was, having digested the notes from the meeting we had on this, and looking at the points that we've got, checking those over. Is there anything else we wish to add? And particularly, we wanted to defer a final agreement until after the meeting of the NCALT meeting, I think, which is in a few days' time. So, which, by the way, apparently is sold out. If anybody's hoping to go on that, I don't know if anybody's booked on, but that's, yeah, I know what you mean, Peter.
Sell out an LCAT meeting.
Wow. Don't know. Go there anyway. There might be a ticket tout outside.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Oh dear. So look, I mean, let's. You've seen those points as circulated. I think you've captured it comprehensively, Anita. I've got no comments on that. I don't. Whatever else got to say. I mean, you've captured all the points. About 2/3 of them, I believe we would probably rehash into an order. We'd put our questions in. We'd put the points in. But I think it looks 90% of the way there. To be honest, it just needs to be enveloped into a return. Peter.
Yes, I agree exactly what you're saying, but the way that they do ask us to respond is by answering those 40-odd questions in their questionnaire, and that is the easiest. It's down as the easiest and recommended way of responding. It's not the only way of responding, but they would assume be looking for that. But
I'm not sure if we captured it. All right. Sorry, Peter. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, but the structure of that does mean that you are only answering their questions. You're not necessarily giving I mean, obviously, a very brief summary of our view was, well, make sure we've still got all the local input that we've got at the moment. And there's not actually a question that that has quite that clarity of answer.
And I do think when we started to talk about this in the meeting, and I don't know if we captured it in a formal resolution, but certainly we captured the mood in the minutes. That was we would prefer to say what needs to be said rather than be thrown into a box where you can only give answer A, B, or C. And I think, I think 2 or 3 of us were more vociferous than others, but I think we generally kind of agreed we're intelligent enough to get the message across. You're right, Peter, that's the prescribed way, but you've picked up on the interesting point that if we were to do that way, we wouldn't transmit the one thing that keeps coming back, which is, please do not take away local consultation and consideration of these things. I mean, it seems to me that, again, what we could probably do with is getting those 45 odd points just mixed up and put into 4 or 5 coherent paragraphs, summarizing it and getting the point concisely across. But where we actually voiced questions, getting those questions in there as well. That seems to be the right way to go forward, but I'm probably going a little bit too fast. Anybody got any more? Sorry, has anybody got any thoughts on this and where we proceed next? So,
yeah, I read the NCALC update that we received from Danny Moody, and I agree with him that the consensus was that the 86-page document is not very accessible, and I appreciated having the short executive summary that they produced from their meeting, and there's still things on there that are way above me. And I couldn't even begin to understand it, let alone answer a serious question on it. And I mean, like section 106 and community infrastructure levy, CIL, I haven't got a clue what they're on about, not a clue. So I'm afraid that's, but I also found that the Boughton House documents were like that too. It was like, it's spoken in the Queen's English. Well, I don't speak to the Queen very often either, so I can't understand it.
You may be relieved to know, Sue, that what they say they're intending by all of this is to actually cut down on the tomes of documentation, particularly for large plan applications. I'm not promising that that's what it will achieve, but that's what they say they're going to try and partially achieve. But I know where you're coming from. So Look, I mean, does anybody not think we've captured any point which is actually important either from that meeting or from since thinking about it? It seemed very comprehensive, but look, we may not have captured everything.
I think the only challenge is how to structure a response based upon an hour and a half section of a meeting, and I would suggest, and I don't know whether Claire will want to take it on, but whether it's should see it as part of the planning brief to put our response together, as opposed to putting something else on Anita.
John?
Yeah, I think we should do it. I'm happy to work with Claire on putting that together, if that's acceptable to people. And obviously circulate it before it's sent out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the point we've got the October meeting to decide, the thing. I think it's a case of how do we move this forward? And yes, I agree that this is something that one or two councillors can do and not burden Anita anymore with it. She's captured the points, and I think it's probably a 30-minute job or 40-minute job to rearrange this into a comprehensive but concise letter, which again can then be circulated for comments for final agreement at the next meeting. Seems to be the right way to proceed. We did say again we'd try and wait for the outcome of that NCALC meeting being held. I think it's on the 18th or the 20th. The one that's sold out.
Well, once I've gate crashed, I'll be able to tell you.
This is it. Okay. It seems to be the right way to go. Any comments on that? Adrian, you're looking pensive.
No. I was actually looking at Claire, thinking she looks very excited about having to do that response. So, no. I think what everybody said, I completely agree, and I read it, and it was difficult to cover what we said in one document. Yeah. But Peter's right; it's the difficulty is how to structure it. So, no, I'm fine with everything.
Well, Claire, look, we're not going to throw you to the wolves. If you don't want to, fine. I'm happy to pair up with John if you.
I can have a go. I've never done anything like this before, so.
I would suggest you literally cut and paste you got 40 odd sentences. What I've done first is I've just gone through and put in bold our points, because others, Anita has quite properly recorded other things said, but they're not necessarily points for return. I'd go through, make them bold, and then literally cut and paste them out into another Word document almost in order. So everything referring to local consultation there, everything referring to I don't know, section 106 monies, pursue and CIL, that can go there. Do you see what I mean? Just rearrange it, and then you can just morph it into a number of paragraphs. I do that partially for a living, so I'm happy to help out if you guys run out of steam with it. I know it's not the easiest task. Peter?
One thing I'd say about it, the more that I've had the opportunity of reading the document, the less suspicious I am of its motives. I was very concerned about the whole thing, that all the publicity up front was about it was going to do away with localization. It was going to be very much centralized. There was going to be no room for local input. But the more I read it, the less concerned I was about it as a document. So I don't think that it's actually it's important and worthwhile that we do put our response together, but it's not that we're I don't think there's a big argument that we're fighting there. I thought an 84-page document that took anyone that did manage to wade through the damn thing took an age to read it, and the more I read it, the more concerned I was initially. But then, having studied it and also got that NCALC summary and got their perception of it, it's good. I think it is doing the aspect that we said we were in favour of: cut down the bureaucracy, make things quicker, make things smoother. Yes, we were happy with all of that. It's just that when you see that initially, it looks like they're going to be cutting corners, but I don't think that's the case.
No, just before I come to Sue, I agree. It looks intimidating. You keep seeing the repeats of things, the glib Boris comments, and then of course the the fact that you're being kind of shepherded to answer questions in a certain way, and I think that can just get you back up straight away. Okay, Sue.
Yeah, I agree with Peter's sentiments exactly as
Yeah.
well. I think it's got it right on the nose.
Okay, well, I think we've resolved a way of taking that forward anyway. So thanks very much, John and Claire. Like I say, I'm happy to help if you give me a little bit of notice. Thank you. Right, so from one dry government paper to another then, changes to the current planning system, comments to be submitted. Claire, have you read it?
Well, I have sort of skim read it, but I focused in on the exception sites, which obviously was something that we looked at before with that development on Stamford Road. And they want to sort of, if I can read this, they want to change it to a first homes exception sites, which are going to be larger. So they'll do away with the sizing, which I can't remember if it's 0.5 of a hectare or something. Well, that'll be larger. They don't say how much larger. And the priority would be given to first homes as opposed to affordable housing, as in like rental homes. So they're trying to reduce that, which I didn't really like. And also the other things they would talk about sort of reducing the amount of affordable homes that will need to be built by small builders. So where we've got allocations for 10 homes and 3 of them, the 30% or 4 of them, 40% would be affordable, that'll be gone unless you're building over 40 houses, which is a little bit worrying, which means that we would lose all our affordable housing allocations, and then we will see an exception site double the size of this one we've just had coming up, and hardly any of them will be affordable rental homes. They'll all be first home for first time buyers, which makes no sense. They're just sort of doing away almost with housing association homes in favour of first time buyers. That's one of the first things that I took from it. And they're doing it sneakily before this other paper, because in this white paper, they are saying we're keeping the affordable homes at the existing level, which means the level they've just changed. So then they can sort of get over that. We're not changing the levels of affordable houses because we've already done it. That is why I think it's coming out before this white paper.
Okay.
So sneaky.
Okay. Peter.
Yeah, specifically on the affordable homes and the ceiling, I read through it in greater detail than I had last time, and I've spoken to Julia Baish at Kettering Town Planning, Kettering Borough Planning, for clarification on the current status of the joint core strategy. And obviously this new document, the changes to the current planning system, what it actually says, as Claire was recapping there, it talks about taking the ceiling up. However, there are exceptions to it, and it does say that within the new Act that although they are proposing to raise the small sites threshold to either 40 or 50 houses, there is and they do concede that would have anything between a 7 and a 20% reduction in affordable housing generated by development at current levels. They do say that the local policies can set it at a lower level. So in other words, we can have something that Kettering Borough, for example, elect to have lower, and it is for 18 months. So it is of a specific period, unless we're proposing that the higher threshold is implemented for a time limited period and lifted as the economy recovers from the impact of COVID-19. an initial period of 18 months is what they're talking about within that. But in designated rural areas, local planning authorities can set a lower threshold of 5 units or fewer in their plans. So it's within the document, although it's saying that they want to put it up to 40 or 50, it's also saying that in local plans, you can have it as low as 5 in rural areas, which would mean that obviously the KBC would have to propose and agree a lower rural threshold.
John.
It won't be KBC. It will be Northants Unitary Council.
point,
That's where planning will be, and that's one of my huge concerns about Northants. I know it's happening, but it will take away a lot of local knowledge, because you'll have a planning committee made up of councillors from Corby, Kettering, Wellingborough and East Northants all together. But I mean, there may be like 2 councillors from Kettering and everybody else from the other areas. So immediately you're taking away, and I know that's not really what this document is about or addresses, but it does play into the dynamics of it. And I'm concerned that because we still do need to make sure, as far as I'm concerned, that planning decisions are made with an understanding of local communities. I don't really know how we tackle that, but those are my concerns.
Okay. To try and get this towards an end, and I've got to confess, I have only had the time to skim this one. What does it require us to do, Claire or Anita? What are we needing to do next with this? Is it a return or something like that? Is there a question?
I know it's got to be fed back by the beginning of October. I haven't actually had a look to see how it's got to be fed back.
I haven't found anything, and NCalc haven't really said anything about this paper. Only have a look at it if you're a nerd. That was what I said in the letter.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I just had to attend to something. Then I apologise for not being attentive. Peter, were you trying to get in?
The structure is just the same though as the white paper. It's got I think this one's got 24 questions. It's got fewer questions, but the way they ask you to respond is by answering a load of questions again. And as we say, by the 1st of October, this is one where we don't have the opportunity, the luxury of putting something together that we can discuss at our next meeting before we send it in. This would need to be something, if we did want to react to it, that we'd need to react and have a special group.
John?
Yeah. Clearly, my point that I made earlier doesn't directly impact this, but what does impact on it is our comments around the white paper, which is, I think, really reinforcing the importance of the local voice and our view, or my view, and I think ours, that should be given a significant weight when decisions are being made, although obviously they have to be made within a national structure, something like that.
So given time is against us, are we going to look to just send a reply back just with 1, 2 or 3 main points? Obviously, we just haven't got the bandwidth to start meeting again and considering this and that. Claire, do you think? Peter, anybody else? Is that or does that not do it justice? Do we feel like we really should put something more comprehensive together?
As Claire says, the way that they've structured this in line with the legislation within this, in line with the concept of the white paper. The white paper is the one that talks about local plans and those sort of things. This takes that sort of thing as read, saying that, well, at the moment, this is a modification to the existing plans, which is the joint core strategy and things like that. And it would still be relevant to the local plans, whatever those local plans would be under the new white paper. when I first, again, this was when I first read it, I was concerned about it. The more you read it, the less contentious I think it is. But it is, as Claire quite rightly points out, it is a little bit disingenuous to be putting this together, which essentially becomes a live document before the white paper. So the white paper can refer to an as is that is not the current as is, but it will be the as is after this paper has gone through. But from the point of view of you could almost, because John was again concerned within this white paper, or within this legislation, that local, what about the local views, the local input, the response that you're putting together for the white paper could almost read across to this one at that level, where our concerns are the same for all planning issues that affect parishes. And I don't think the specifics of this or anything. Claire read, well done. Claire read more into the exception sites than I did. I read more into the impact on affordable housing.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Adrian.
Yeah, there's some points I agree with, some points I'm not sure about here, but in general, when you read this, it reads very similar to the other document. There's a point it makes on one page where it speaks of the fact that we're not generating enough new homes annually, and local plans are far below what the number should be. Now, what I take away from that is that John's point is that there is some intention potentially to take it out of our hands because we're not allowing that number to grow. So I have a concern there. But then Peter's right in his point that said, actually, I think they're pushing this one through because they can refer to it in the bigger paper. We have to reply to this. It would be remiss of us not to reply to this. I think some of the answers to this are going to be very similar to the answers to the other one. Yeah. But we have to separately reply. And you're right, we only have till October the 1st. So there's a lot of work here. And if Claire and John want some help, I'll throw my hat in the ring.
So what we're saying is that the response to this, the answers are pretty much within the points we've already made, but they just need to be formatted in a different way and answer this one specifically.
It does need a separate response, but there is
absolutely
similarity.
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
But I think in some way, because this is the one with the first cutoff, you'd be using our discussion that was relevant to changes to planning regulations in general to construct an answer, and the first part of that answer would actually could be the response to this, and then you would copy that plus any expansion as the response to the white paper in full.
Agreed.
Okay. Yep. Okay. But what this means is that final return, we're not going to have a time for a meeting to be able to sign it off, and I'm very loath to have a third meeting this month to sign that off.
But I think between us, we could probably pull some together and circulate it in the next 2 weeks for this first paper. And then we've got time to comment on that and expand it, like Peter's just said, for the next meeting.
For the other return. Yeah. I mean, I agree. And I agree on that common sense angle. I guess getting around the kind of, not getting round, but to be in abeyance of the rules that we have, I guess what we say is that we've effectively already agreed our opinion. We've already minuted it. We've already got it. It's just that bits of that need to be extracted to go into a specific letter to address this specific paper.
Sorry. Yeah. And within this meeting, we're authorising Claire to form a planning subcommittee to put a response together.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
That's true. And that's a very good point, Peter. And if just so we've got it over the line, who wants to be part of that planning subcommittee in case John, you're happy, Adrian, you're happy, Peter, would you be happy? I'd certainly be happy to be part of that.
Yes,
Anybody else?
With a hand not up, it's Claire. So
oh no, I've got to put my hand up now.
And I think the point is that we will be only transmitting the opinion of which we're all agreed anyway, and
Yes.
it's been documented, but we're extracting the bits relevant to this paper. The paper has to be first in, and then there's a secondary piece, which is an expansion and addition for the larger paper due later. Okay. Sorry, that's a bit dry, but we just need to make sure that we don't fall too foul of procedure. John.
Yeah, and it links to that, and links to my comments about East Northants. Sorry, about not East Northants, North Northants, because it seems to me that with all of this, more and more importance is going to be placed, or should be, from our point of view, placed on our comments and the way we respond to planning applications, so that they are as strong on planning legislation as possible, because we know that they'll be going to the less local committee. So what I'm saying there is that maybe we should be looking towards asking the borough or somebody to train us a bit more, because I know that also there's quite a number of new councillors who will find planning a very unknown quantity.
John. Great, thanks everybody. It's really good when we can expedite stuff. Really good. Right.
Sorry, Chair, can we ask, can somebody take that on?
Oh, sorry.
To ask the planning department and KBC, I suppose, because they're our parents, for some kind of training in the new world. They may well not have time to do it. If Mark was here, I guess he'd be saying that. But we don't want to be in the position next April of suddenly finding that we're dealing with an unknown planning authority. We need to be prepared for how we deal with that.
Well, Anita, would you be able to ask them? Obviously, we've given Claire the last 6 actions.
Yeah,
So if you could, if you don't mind doing that, that would be good.
I'm also unsure about even if the response comes mainly out of what has been spoken about and agreed at this meeting. I think the planning subcommittee had supposed to bring it back to the main meeting. I can check with Mark, but I believe it has to.
Okay.
I can check with him, but I think I'm right.
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Do we not circumnavigate that if we issue it to all councillors?
I just thought we could agree to do that here, surely.
Yeah, the question is, can we agree to delegate a decision? I'm not entirely sure, which is why I was saying
surely what we're delegating is an action. We're not delegating any decision making. The decision has been made within the full council meeting. We've had discussion that has been minuted, and we're authorising somebody to take those minutes and put them into a response, and we're authorising the planning lead to coordinate the activities of a planning subcommittee. So we're not authorising them to make any decisions. We're asking them to carry out an action.
And that finished document will be circulated.
Yeah, oh, it certainly will be.
Chair, that's one for you. Are we okay there?
It's certainly in a grey area, isn't it? I feel, I've got to be honest, I feel comfortable because the opinions have already been pre-agreed and it's a case of formatting. By rights, if you're a purist, any document that goes out should come back to the full council. David, you longest serving, could I get your view on this? Do you mind, David Watson?
Sorry, Chairman. Yeah, it's one of those things where we've made a decision. We're just asking somebody to enact it. I'd be very happy for that to go out. Yeah, circulate it when it's been done, so people know what's there.
Yes, I think we, as Adrian says, I think to certainly take any sting out of it. If it's circulated a few days before it goes out, then I appreciate it only gives you guys or us guys a week or so on this. I think then again, it's certainly not going to go out without people having seen it. But all the time we do resolve in these meetings, oh, you know, don't worry, I'll write that letter, or if Anita does that, if you just check that over, or, you know, you happy to put that return in. Yeah, I like I say, I don't think this is absolutely in the clear, but it's the right thing to do.
Could I ask a question? If we had this discussion, but we'd said, right, Anita, so can you put our response together? Would we have had to have Anita come back to full council for us to approve her response? Because if we say that Anita could send the document out on our behalf, is there any? Maybe I'm just too realistic and not purist enough.
No,
You might want somebody to independently review it just to make sure that it says what they intended it to say, you know, for typos and stuff like that. But I don't think it has to come back to full council.
no, it's a very good point.
My big worry is that so often we have projects of this sort which we end up not responding to because we've missed the deadline.
Yeah.
And even if we're wrong, this is a better approach than that.
Well, look, the book stops here, so I'll take the responsibility, obviously, if it was the wrong thing to do, because I'll sanction it. And it is, as somebody said, we need to be realistic. If we're being open, we're being realistic, we're representing residents, and we do make a small procedural error, hey, I'll take the blame for that. But we're acting in good faith, we're not acting in bad faith. So
this is a transparent meeting, Chair.
Absolutely. Okay.
So that's a yes.
Yeah.
So
Otherwise, we are back to the situation where we can only do things at a meeting.
Exactly.
Anita, sorry.
No, so do we need somebody to propose and then second the fact that we're taking the minutes, putting them in a response, we're not making a decision, but we're just pulling together a response for another document? Do we need to have a proposer and a seconder for that, or not?
We absolutely do. You're quite right.
I'll propose it.
Thank you, John. Well, I'm happy to second that action there. All those in favour of that proposal?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Anita. It was right for you to challenge, and I want to thank everybody for your pragmatism. Thank you. Right, let's move to item 8, correspondence then. As we said, I've got, I think, 4 small things which kind of could fall under correspondence. The first is the Peter, you've been in communication with English Heritage over these bridge repairs. Which I don't know how many of you have seen the repairs on the bridge. The one thing you can't say is that they've not been done, but they are very conspicuous. And Peter, you've taken pictures and flagged that up with English Heritage, haven't you? And they've replied and so on.
I've just I took it up with initially with Alan Prudhomme, who was the individual from Highways who was responsible for managing the project, and I simply queried, was the full extent of the work signed off by Historic England? And he said that in working on a bridge, often you find extra work that needs doing, but that has to go back and would have been signed off. I've then been in touch with, which I copied those mails into Dr. Neil Rimington, and had a response from him, and have a response from Rachel Jordan. They are looking into the work that was carried out, just to ensure that the procedural matters were addressed properly. But I did take exception to the logic that every block that showed a sign of wear on a 750-year-old bridge needed replacing. Yeah, it is a it's an ongoing situation. They have undertaken to come back to us with the result of their review with Highways.
Yeah, I've tried to share my screen and I can't. But effectively, it's almost like they've missed one block out in their hurry. There's one section where they've replaced, and they must have put in about 12, 14 new blocks, but there's one nearest the water that they just haven't replaced at all, which actually looks like it's going pretty substantially.
So some of the blocks that they've replaced because of scoring were only scored, I mean, many years ago. But when the floods were the traditional Geddington floods, the water was at that height. Now we've got the berm, the water doesn't get to the height of some of the repairs that they've done anyway. Yeah, it would be literally way back past the post office and those sort of things if it were to reach those sort of levels again.
Okay,
so
well,
I think I did contact them before they did the work, and I did clarify that we were looking for preservation, not renovation. But we recognise the fact that we are not in any way a decision maker in the process, and that it is Historic England and Highways. And candidly, if Historic England and Highways come back and say, yes, everything was done in accordance with the procedures, and we are happy with the way it was carried out, there's nothing we can say.
All right. I'm trying to share the screen now.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that one there, which again looks quite. I'm trying to scroll through these pictures just to.
You can see on the if you've got the one that shows the
Right.
four on that one, it does show the fact that there was.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to it, but I really am not very adept at this.
Well, you better than I.
So yeah, I just probably.
The only consolation I give you, Chairman, is given a couple of years, so the bit of moss might have grown across them. They get a bit of colouring. They probably won't look quite so bad.
Oh, they won't look quite so bad. No, they did make that point, both the Highways and Historic England, and that particular view that Mark just showed, that Nick just showed there. I did say yes, maybe with wear and tear and 750 years, it will look like the section just above it.
I won't be here, I'm afraid, to look.
Well, you're just not committed enough, John. So
that's what they always say.
When we've had repairs done in the past on the top of the bridge, I mean, we said this the same when they were done. Oh, they look awful, they don't match. But now you probably couldn't tell which ones are which. They have really changed colour and faded in.
Yeah, they will do, but it is just as I say, I think they have done. And I'm a layman, but totally the same as everybody else. But I do believe that it's been over enthusiastic and not a sympathetic preservation, because all we were looking at was stopping any deterioration on, and we flagged as a council just one of the cutwaters that had a great big section broken out of it. We were concerned about water getting in, expanding, and as it froze and damaging the surface, making it considerably worse. But it's actually it's had a full BBC One makeover.
I think the good thing is, we need to move on, but those pictures are good, Peter, because we can, of course, have a look over time and see how they change. Yeah. I guess we'll just see what comes back from Mr. Prudham and the rest of them. And if it's an agenda point next time, then so be it. I don't think we're anxious for them to take them back out again, but we'll just see how they respond. Just moving swiftly on then. So the next item I have, Anita, we had something, was it from KBC, offering that, telling us there was a fallen branch in the dog walking meadows, and they're happy to.
Yeah, it was from Dawn Hughes, who is the Arboricultural Development Officer. It was her who did the work to do with the tree in the recreation ground not so long ago, the one that the tape has put round. And she says, we've received a report of tree damage on parish land at the meadows, picture attached. Thank you. If you would like us to assist with this, please let us know.
Okay, I'm sharing so I can't see everybody. Does anybody have a view on this?
It is one of those four. I think they're crack willows. It's either crack willows or white willows, but it's one of the four. Just as you go in from the western end of the dog park. the trees that they're all very prone to damage because they're very, very old trees, and the hearts of all of the trees have been hollowed out and rotted away over the years. You know, there's evidence of little bonfires inside there and everything. But that is an area that, or that particular branch is, and as of earlier this evening, it is still hanging like that in the tree. So it is dangerous.
So just to clarify, sorry, is this company offering their services to make that safe?
She's from the borough council.
So is there a cost involved, or
I think it's irrelevant, Chairman. I think we have to deal with it.
Well,
It's a risk issue. If that falls off on somebody, it could do some serious damage.
I don't think anybody's saying we shouldn't deal with it. It's just how we go about it, because
I don't think we have the expertise within the organisation.
No, okay, but we have used the services of a gentleman who lives across the other side of the field before.
Yeah, I'm not sure how nimble he would be at clambering up and cutting this off.
And again, with the greatest respect to him, there's the finished product he's not going to make anything out of.
Yeah.
The other one was I think was fine oak, and this is.
I think that's irrespective. If he can help, then he should.
I think the first thing is to find out. I mean, and I've got to repeat the question. Sorry, John, I'll come to you, but Dave Rushton was ahead of you as well, so I'll come to Dave and then John. The question is, I think somebody just asked it, Anita, and I missed it as well. Is the KBC offering to do this for free?
Well, I assumed they were, because she didn't say there was a cost involved, but I can certainly give them a ring tomorrow to check that.
Okay.
Just a point of information. I know I'm jumping in. I think Dawn lives in the village. I think she does. And it may be that she has a local knowledge. It might be really quite useful for us to develop a relationship with her as well.
All right.
Of course, I might be wrong on
that. Okay. Dave Rushton. On mute.
I couldn't press spacebar for some bizarre reason. What I was going to say is, for me, if someone's offering to get this done, just get it done. I don't know what the faff is about.
Exactly.
It's just, if someone's getting it done, get it done. Like, I wouldn't expect anything more or less. But that's just what I think anyway. But
is there a faff, or are we querying how much it's going to cost?
No, I'm not saying there's a faff, but if someone's offering to do it for free, just
well, we don't know that they are. That's what we're questioning.
Okay.
Shall we set a price limit on it then?
Okay, Sue and then Anita.
Yeah, I was just going to confer that she wasn't saying in the email that she was offering to do anything about it. She said, did we want to team up with her and just as a team? It wasn't saying she was going to do it or anything.
Well, I'm sorry then. I'm obviously misunderstood. But
yeah, I misread it as well.
Put a price point on it then. I don't know.
No, there was no reference to it at all.
Okay, Anita.
Well, I was just going to say I can phone up and find out if there is a cost involved, and if so, do you want to set a limit on it and we go ahead with it if it's within that limit?
And a time frame. I think a time frame is important.
Yeah, seems the pragmatic thing to do, doesn't it? Set a limit, see if they're going to do it. If they go no, then as Adrian suggests, we try the arborist by the park. John.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we might be missing out on something here. If we are, quite often we need some advice on trees around, and if we have got somebody living in the village who has that kind of knowledge, who works for the borough council at the moment, it might be very well worth working alongside it, or developing a conversation really. Okay. Obviously, if it's going to cost money, then we'll have to consider how much.
Okay. It sounds like there's two actions. One is to develop a relationship with this person, because in the future we might be cutting down trees and branches for no reason, which we don't want to do. But slightly trumping that, of course, is if we've got a photograph of something that looks dangerous and we don't do anything about it, That's a slightly more of the two evils. So what are we saying then? That we want to authorise some spend to get this dealt with?
Yeah, can we not do both? I mean, can we not get this dealt with ASAP and then form a relationship for future reference?
Well, we are, because what I'm going to propose is that Anita contacts her fairly quickly and mentions, yep, great, thank you for that. We want to deal with the tree. Yeah, we want to develop a relationship. Just quickly on this, it looks dangerous, is it? If it is, what are KBC able to deal with this? And if so, when? Is there a cost? If there's a lot of prevarication and there's well, that's down to you guys, all the rest of it, then we need to have approved plan B tonight to go and get it cut down. The question I've got, because I'm not an expert, is what is a sensible figure to pre-approve? So again, we can expedite this without having to meet again over it.
What was the figure last time? I can't remember.
The figure for cutting down the tree in the recreation field was 250, I believe.
That's the figure I had in mind for this, and it doesn't seem
reasonable. Yeah,
a bigger job.
Should we say £300 to be safe? Again, I didn't mean to sound cynical, but the oak that was taken away last time would also have had a value. Can I suggest 300 just in case?
Yeah.
That we pre-approve that figure.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody wish to say? Well, I'll propose that. Does anybody wish to second that, please? Dave Rushton, thank you. All those in favour of that proposal to pre-agree? 300. Thank you. So sorry, Anita. Yeah, that one would be to the top of the pile, I'm afraid, if you don't mind, because of
that's fine.
The urgency around it. I should have nipped out to have a look at it actually, and just didn't get the time. So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. The other one I've got is a non-resident has written in to inquire over the ownership of some land in Newton. Anita, I think you sent that to David. Is that easily disposed of? Doesn't really need a decision from us.
I've sent back the details. It's the sheep pens in Newton that are used regularly for dipping sheep and for mustering cattle before they go off to market. It's owned by Boughton, but is leased to the farm. I would be astonished if they said yes, but it's nothing to do with us. I suggest you refer it either to Maxine By or to Boughton.
Yeah, I've replied to her.
Fine. That's fine then.
Thank you, David, for the knowledge.
Okay.
Nice and simple. Right. Anything else under correspondence, anybody? Okay. Thank you. Right. Let's go to item 9 then. Risk assessments register for finalising and sign off. And we really need to do this tonight because poor Adrian's been labouring with this for ages. So I've had a look at it, but are we still looking at some outstanding questions, Adrian, that we need sorting out tonight? Or are we there?
You're muted, Adrian.
Yeah, sorry. So Peter and David kindly responded. So thank you, gents. I haven't made the last amendment since David's response, so I need to put that in. There's a couple of questions. Okay, one's about consequential loss and whether or not we need it. I put I'm not unsure. I'm unsure of the visibility of the policy. There's Peter and David believes we don't need it. So as long as we're happy with that, then we can take that out. That's the first question.
Mine was more a point that I was quite confident that the insurance didn't cover it. I didn't personally see that we needed it, but it was also a question of, well, what is the, in the tone of this document, in the context of this document, what consequential loss is it looking at? Is it looking at us taking on a contract and then there is a consequential loss for us cancelling a contract? Is it something that we have a level of responsibility for, and then there's consequential damage because somebody gets injured by something and it goes beyond public liability insurance? I wasn't sure what context it was supposed to be covering.
I think there's an aspect. Oh, I'll bow to Nick here, but I believe it's covered a bit of both of those, Peter.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I see the word is consequential. The risk column says consequential loss due to critical damage or third-party performance. So again,
Are you probably saying we need to make that clearer?
Yeah, I don't, without being obtuse about it, I don't know quite what it's looking at. If it's saying that we have a third party that has been doing something for us, they didn't do it properly, and we're looking at whether we should have consequential loss insurance cover for their misdemeanor, I would say that anything that we subcontract, there's a requirement on us to make sure that the insurance is in place by the subcontractor or the third party to carry out whatever duties they are doing for us. So I don't see that we would have a liability for consequential loss anyway.
Yeah, consequential loss is when it's almost slightly divorced from. So let's say, I don't know, we were responsible for the village hall car park or something, and due to the parish council's negligence or something else, nobody could get in there, and as a result, the cricket club lost a whole day's revenue.
Yeah,
exactly.
So nobody got injured or anything like that, but it's usually that the best example is traders can't trade. People can't make money over their activities because of some negligence or omission. I think it's a very simple question. Does our insurance cover consequential loss? I think it's absolutely right. It should be in there. And that's a simple question. Have we not? And we can't answer that.
Well, I forwarded the insurance to Adrian the last time, that because Anita had circulated it to us for views when it came up for renewal. So I forwarded that to Adrian. I'd looked through it. I couldn't find any reference to consequential loss anyway.
No. And if that's the document, the most current document, I'm still not sure it does.
Okay.
But surely we would just have to have a disclaimer in any contract that we issue that say that we are not liable for third-party damage, the consequential loss.
Yeah, we would, but again, I think and this is slightly stretching it, but if that tree in the recreation ground came down and hit one of the village plumbers and he couldn't work for 3 months, that would be consequential loss. So we wouldn't necessarily have a contract with him, or even
public rather than public liability.
Yeah. Okay.
Public liability insurance.
Okay.
Okay. So
this can only be a contractual liability that we have, unavoidably or without excluding it of a contract, we find ourselves in a situation where we have some ongoing liability for something.
Chairman, can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Why don't we invite our insurers to join our next parish council meeting on Zoom to answer questions?
Or, very good point, David. Or do I ask the insurers the question?
Or well, you could ask them and understand the policy. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're happy with that.
If you don't mind, I think Adrian, it sounds like the right thing to do, just rather than have them come to the meeting.
We had to do that at one stage in the past when we were concerned about hygiene and things like that. And we were saying, well, okay, what's the situation about, we know what our public liability covers for, but if we have allowed a hot dog vendor to have a stall on the recreation ground and that hot dog vendor poisons half the village, do we have liability for that? And it was said that our public liability, if it was something that if it was a cost that was incurred in us taking reasonable care, doing our duty as a parish council, then we were covered under public liability.
Okay, I'll take it up with the insurers.
Thanks, Adrian. On this second one that's on the screen now, and can I suggest this is about illegal activity or payment? Yes. Educate councils the legal powers. What docs avail councils? Their training available. It's an interesting point. I was having this discussion with somebody the other day. We used to, Anita, send new councillors on a course, didn't we?
I did send the last lot of new training from NCALC out, possibly, would it be a month ago, 2 months ago? I perhaps ought to have put a note with it to say, this is particularly relevant for new councillors. I can certainly circulate it again.
Yeah, Anita, are these courses still going ahead, albeit obviously remotely on Zoom or something? They are still happening, are they?
Yeah, I mean, the notification doesn't come out monthly, but there was one came out a couple of months ago, so I can certainly recirculate that, because it tells you on it what is ideal for any councillors, or what is, you know, definitely of benefit to new councillors.
I mean, to answer it for the risk assessment, we can say that there is a course for new councillors. It's a day-long course, from what I recall, or at least a half day, and it does talk about these things. So it's actually a formal course. However, just clinging on to this for a second, I think that would actually be useful, not just for new councillors. Anita, I can only imagine the course must be much less if it's being done remotely. And we might wish to offer this out again. It's part of the risk assessment, but practically anyway, to all councillors. Because I'm not entirely sure how many new councillors have done it. I would have done it 4 or 5 years ago, and I can't best remember it. I might want to redo it.
I'll recirculate it then. Yeah.
Okay, so I can include that. David made a good point on. He went further and said, education is good, and that's the first point. However, if that fails and something goes wrong and somebody acts illicitly, who or when or how do we then take action? Does that fall to you, Chair, or?
That could fall to me. It would normally fall to the responsible financial officer, but they would just notify the police. As far as I'm concerned, it's a criminal offence.
So I need to include something along those lines.
Yeah, I think
there is another issue, Chairman.
Yes.
What if and it will come up next year with the elections, if we have any new councillors. At the moment, we tell them the courses are running, but I'm not sure that we insist they attend. I believe they should.
Okay. What, so you think that we should make it mandatory for anybody who joins our parish council to go on the new councillor course?
Yeah, I do.
I agree with that.
And you know, I don't know, I was probably the most recent of our councillors that did the course, because I did it when I first joined, and it's very useful.
Yeah.
And so did Terry.
Yeah.
Terry
But
did it as well.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm the most recent because you were both on before me. So you know, I did it, and I think that it should be, not because it's not as a draconian policing matter, but it is very sensible that people get the benefit of what that course can convey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine was the off to a flying start one.
Yes.
Getting started.
I'd take it a bit further, Chairman, and say that given the changes that are happening around us with the borough council, it wouldn't be a bad idea for everybody to attend after the next election.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's going to be parish councillors in the new world. We're going to have to find out how we function, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly happy for that amendment to be in there. Adrian, you happy with that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, they're the 3 ones. The 3 points we were waiting for. So
you said 3. I mean, is that it? That
well, there's point 8, which we've covered, which is the consequential loss. I'll talk to the insurers, and then on that point 9 was there any education? You've answered that, and Anita's going to circulate that. And then the second point was, okay, well, if the education fails, what happens then? Well, you've answered that, so I can incorporate something along those lines.
Okay. Good, thank you. Brilliant. Welcome, Mark.
Sorry, Chair. The only last point is, now that we have a document, and if we're agreeing that document, then at some point throughout that year, we have to refer back to that document because there are deadlines involved.
Well, there aren't because what we've done is we've nominated months when things get reviewed.
Yeah.
So Anita, when I'm really hope at the next meeting we are agreeing that document. And then what we would need to do is to make sure that wherever there is a review date of a month, it appears in that month's agenda.
Can I suggest, Chairman, it ought to be May?
Yeah, I'm talking about the sub points, David. There's things that are discussed.
Yeah,
you know,
but
should be,
we ought to do an annual review every May, because the auditors ask the question about it and the stuff goes to the auditors in June or the end of June.
Okay.
That will allow Anita to answer their question.
Okay, I think we're just dealing with two separate things. One is the actions within the risk register, which, as Adrian's saying, we really need to get diarised into the monthly meetings. But you're talking about the review of the document as a whole should happen annually in May.
Yeah, but that would include, have we done what we're supposed to have done?
Yeah.
Which is a review of, I suppose, an annual review. But to take an example, have we reviewed the assets regularly through the year, and are they in safe condition so that nothing happens? Well, you wouldn't do that annually. You might do that, I can't remember what it says now, but you might do it biannually or quarterly or whatever we agree.
Okay. I think we're all violently agreeing with each other. So yeah, so in May, we can have a review. Did we do all the things that we should have done in the months that we said we'd do it, in the manner we said we'd do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do that at the May meeting, review the whole document. Okay. Right, good. Well, hopefully by next meeting, we'll have that ready for sign off. Right. Item 10, environment then. GigaClear, as we've seen, they're popping up everywhere.
No, they're not. They're not popping up in Newton.
No, but they are good prices, to be fair.
Oh dear. Okay, Peter.
They were invited to have representation at this virtual meeting, and I did get, before the meeting, the apologies from Glenn Richardson. He and Matt Hall had been on site visits and they wouldn't be back in time to participate. They did say that he did say that if we've got any specific queries, that he's more than willing to have a telephone conversation set up tomorrow to discuss any queries that are raised tonight. But they did send their apologies for not being present at the meeting.
I mentioned earlier on, because it was just within the, it was kind of within the minutes of it was an action within the minutes of when these remedial works would take place. And again, I did spot that the golden gravel, they're talking about spring now. We're going to get asked by residents why, when there were promises to do it earlier. I'm always reluctant to say the words, oh, because of COVID, because that's the excuse everybody uses at the moment for everything. Do we know within or any sub reason why it wasn't done? If not, can we ask Anita, then Peter?
Yeah, I was just going to read out what he's put. He said, so our plan is to hit this all at once instead of separate trips and additional costs. That's the justification for doing the golden gravel all in one foul swoop.
Okay.
Yeah, what they had said in response to an earlier email was the fact that the approved method was only agreed with highways comparatively recently.
Right.
So that the original commitments they'd made, which were based upon using a resin bonded aggregate, they went back to trials because visually that wasn't considered necessarily acceptable, and they looked at tarmac based systems as well, and they've now come up with one that has been approved for reinstatement. But then it does come down to the fact that Anita said that they have now made a commercial decision that they prefer to do it all in one go when all of the work's completed. Now, we may not be happy with that. That could be some feedback that I, if we wanted, I can give to I could give to GigaClear. But the initial delay was apparently the method requiring approval.
It is a bit disappointing. I understand that why they wanted to do a lot of the other remedial stuff in spring because of then capturing the growing time, etc. There was a lockdown. They certainly couldn't have done the work for most of spring. But yeah, that is somewhat disappointing because we can't not answerable to residents, but we have to answer them. Okay. But yeah, it'd be good if we could convey that disappointment. John.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think we should say we are disappointed. It's not what we wanted. But we've also got concerns, I think, about the way they're carrying out the work now, haven't we?
We have a number of observations that there's not actually any work going on, but there's an awful lot of cones, traffic lights and equipment laying around everywhere.
Bloody mess, really.
Their original date that they notified us was going to be the, I think it was the 17th or the 19th of September. In other words, it was later on, round about now.
Mm.
They, as Mark will have obviously noted and commented, they did start something in front of it in Grange Road, which seems to have been the unloading of the sheathing and some spray painting on the path. I don't know if they've done anything anywhere else during the village, but when I did take that up with Glyn, I just dropped him a line to say that, okay, so you've started. We haven't announced anything to the village as of yet because the logic was we were going to have a parish council meeting and we were going to thrash any issues out before we put our head above the parapet. But you've already started. And he said that, yes, apparently they got their permits through from highways early, and that's why they made a start early. But it doesn't seem to have been a particularly effective start.
No, and I suppose that the argument will come back. Well, they're the civils contractors, and then there's GigaClear. Mark.
Yeah, they sent notes out to everybody in Grange Road telling us to move our cars on the 2nd of September. Indicate not the most polite message either in the world, suggesting they were going to do the work in one day. Nothing happened. Everyone moved the cars, but nothing happened. Then about the 4th of September, a load of gear suddenly, the roll of fibre optic cable, type 1 and sand suddenly appeared. Loads of parking spaces taken up. When I emailed them to say what's going on, that's all been here over a week now and you haven't done anything. They suddenly announced they were working in oh no, we are working, we're in Skeffington. They started on that Sunday in Skeffington. So now the green in Skeffington's got a load of debris on it as well now.
This is a rehash of what they did before, isn't it?
A workman comes every now and again to take some of the stuff out of the storage area they've created at the top of on the corner of Skeffington and Grange Road. But the road markings they've made in Grange Road have washed off now. So they'll have to do all that again.
Yeah, it's just a repeat, isn't it? And again, I don't know because I'm cycling through Grafton Underwood for the last 5 days and it's just stuck there. There's just a load of cones, a load of whatever. There's no work going on. Dave?
One thing I've noticed is when they were doing it up here, they weren't digging, for me, they weren't digging, they didn't seem to be digging the holes very, very deep enough. And not only that, is when they're actually fitting the little bits on the top, some of them are still, even where I am, are still poking out the ground. So, I mean, the quality of the work isn't up to much scratch in my view either. So there's just something to consider. I know we can't change the past, but it'd be nice if they can maybe consider sorting out the future and maybe making sure that the work is done to a good enough quality, because if someone's going to start digging up their back garden or knock a cable or something, the whole internet's going to be down, isn't it, for the people that are on it. So just my observation would be just check the quality or get somebody to check the quality, because if it's anything up there, I don't think it'd be up to a good enough standard.
The question is, what do we do as a parish council? I think we've got to convey the fact that already we're seeing large amounts of inconvenience and no work going on.
Just
John?
Seems to be rushed then, doesn't it? Well, that probably explain it.
I'm just wondering, last time, didn't we, I don't know if it was productive, we asked them to a meeting because they seemed to avoid, they didn't want to come to parish council meetings last time, they never do. So we met with them in Cafe Oak, you, me and Peter. Do we need to summon them or invite them to something like that? Was that useful in the end? I don't know.
It was useful in that we gleaned a lot of information that we could pass on to our rather irate residents. I think at this point, I would suggest more that we're in early days of, and it would make Can you hear me? Right.
Yeah, you sound all right now.
Sorry. I was going to suggest that we just send a firm missive now to say, look, it's very clear what's happened, or what we can see is that there's a lot of equipment being put out, notes through doors, and it's just not happening on the day, and we just get slipping into old habits. Can you tell us what the plan is? Can you start communicating the plan to residents the way, as you said you would last time? For instance, using Facebook, and they said they would do that, and they haven't. To my knowledge, they haven't done it this time. So I'm just wondering if we ask Anita to write formally and say to them, we're already getting a lot of complaints. Notes have gone through people's doors. They've moved cars. The work hasn't started. They've moved back again. There's a lot of equipment. You're moving around, and you're not communicating with us, and you're not communicating on Facebook. And you need to communicate to residents and tell them what's going on. Okay, Adrian.
Completely agree, because when it happened on our side, no sooner had they'd more or less finished, and no sooner had they more or less finished, then the sales rep came round and did his hard sell. So this is completely in their interest. They need everybody on side, because otherwise the sales rep comes round and he gets short thrift from everybody because they're that fed up with the inconvenience. He goes home wet through, wondering why he was thrown in the Ford, and it's not his fault. It's, if they get it right now and make everybody happy, they'll get more of a sale at the other end. So it's completely in their interest.
Okay, so I think we've resolved that we need to get that formal note to them. It's in their best interest, as we've said, and selfishly, it's in ours. We've got 1,500 residents who are going to want to pay.
It's a shame because it's a good service what they offer. It's just unfortunately they just need to be a little bit better in actually building it.
Yeah, and I say communication's key. Anything more on GigaClear? We'll move on. Okay. So 9:30. So we've got a few environmental things. Right, Village Hall, car park, any updates? Did we say that's covered off? Peter?
Yeah, well, as Anita mentioned earlier, the planning application has now gone live. So it's on the system for consultation. So Anita did circulate, as she was requested in the action of the last meeting, the documentation pack that she'd used to send out to responders who were interested in putting a quotation together. But she said with COVID and everything, there was no sort of finality to any of that quoting exercise. So as I said 2 meetings ago, we are still in the situation where that needs reactivating.
So there's nothing else that could happen at the moment until we get the planning back.
It can be going in parallel. There's no reason why we couldn't be speaking to contractors, because the nature of the application is really it'll either be accepted or it'll be rejected. I don't see that there's any areas where they'll be asking for fundamental changes other than say acceptance or rejection. So it would be something where we could get some activity done. Obviously, on a limited basis, the cricket and bowls clubs have started activities again, and the parking has been once again an issue, such that the feedback the Village Hall had from the bowls club is that they will not schedule any activity on Saturday afternoons because they know that now that the cricket has started again, the cricket has started earlier for some reason, so that they're down there from 10 o'clock. The bowls normally starts about lunchtime, and by that stage the car park's full, so they're simply not organising any fixtures. Luckily at the moment, as I've mentioned earlier, there's no activity from the village hall, so that doesn't compound it at all. So it really is just the residents that use it, villagers, visitors that come, and the cricket.
Okay.
But it's still live.
Okay. Any more on the village hall car park? Okay. Village signage updates. Adrian, did we get anywhere with Mr. Ken Signs, Peter Moat?
Yes. So the signs were manufactured. I met him probably 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, on his return from holiday. They were ready to go. The only delay was that his young son, Senna, who I'm guessing here is about 8, wanted to be involved helping put these signs up. So there was a slight delay so they could get their calendars. And who am I to say that shouldn't happen, because it should happen. And then he messaged me at the weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't have my phone with me to say that they were going to do it Sunday morning. So I noticed, I've only been from my house to the dog park between now and Sunday morning, and I've noticed a few there. So it looks like he's done some of this. I did bump into him on the bridge when he was putting one up on the bridge, but I haven't walked around the village to find out exactly where they are. So I know he's done it. He's a man of his word and he's done it, but I haven't been out and had a look. Has anybody else seen him?
Peter?
Just the contrary. I have seen that there's still, for example, in front of the chapel, it's still the ones that Nick had worked on in the notice board. So I hadn't seen the evidence of any replacement ones myself.
Yeah, I don't think he planned. I don't think he was tasked really to take the old ones down. When I go for a walk around the village later this week, I'll probably have a look and review that. But
I wasn't saying it from the purpose or from the point of view that they hadn't removed the old ones. It's just the fact that they haven't put a new one in its. It's not jostling for space with a new one. It's only the old one that's there.
Okay, all right. I'll remiss of me. I've not had time, but I will go and inspect and see what's what.
Do we know very roughly, Adrian, what he has very kindly promised to provide and do, just to give us a bit of context?
I sent him the PowerPoint that you all saw.
Yeah.
Which had the original quote on the original design, which was the village car park, blue and white sign with an arrow.
Yeah.
Pete then said he would also do some no parking signs to go in the areas around the ford. So I'm looking, the one I certainly saw that was by the bridge, just as you go into the dog walking park, was exactly that. It's a blue and white sign with an arrow pointing towards the village hall car park. It's smaller than we originally were looking at, but it's of a much better quality.
It looks official, yeah.
Oh, these are official signs in all respect. They look as they should do, yeah.
I mean, look, Adrian, if you don't mind, just convey our thanks, our grateful thanks again, because he's saved money and it's very kind of him. But again, notwithstanding, obviously, his boy wants to help. If you gently mention that, look, there's a few of us that are more than happy to help, get signs up, etc. It might be a polite way of saying how many have you got left to do, etc., just to give us an idea.
Well, he was doing them all, he said, at the weekend. It's just me.
Okay.
I haven't walked around the village since then, so I need to go and have a look.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll sure a few of us will do that and have a look. I've only walked on the north side. I've not seen any. So, okay. All right. Good. Right. Traffic issues. You're still on, Adrian. HGV access through the village centre.
Well, look, there's a couple of points here. There's a couple of points that I'm conveying from residents, and then there's one point I'm going to make. So HGV access through the village. This is on the back of, and I'm sure we all saw it on Facebook, there was a car hit on West Street. Now, West Street has always been a concern for me because there's a lot of blind spots. Because of the history of the houses, there's a lot of houses that haven't got a pavement. So you step out from that house. In fact, you can step out from the pub as well, and you're right on the road. The history is such that a lot of the houses along the main drag of West Street haven't got parking, so they all park on the road, and there's more and more heavy goods vehicles coming down there. And that's a difficult one because and this was an agricultural heavy goods vehicle, I'm led to believe, and it's allowed to come down there because it's obviously going to the fields and the farms in the neighbouring areas. Now, I don't know whether the agricultural vehicles are getting larger, but there was car damage, and that vehicle did not stop. Okay, so the person in question has sustained some damage, and they are talking to the company whose lorry it was. As I don't know from this point at this current time whether that's been reported to the police or not. I know they're talking to the company involved. My concern is that this time it was a car. Now, what happens next time? Because I'm not very happy with the safety of West Street. I know it's been reported to me. I don't necessarily know what the answer is, because if you stop agricultural vehicles going down West Street, well, they have to get from one side of the village to the other. So I don't see how you can. But it is a point that needs to be discussed.
Peter?
I did copy to councillors the correspondence that I had with Sarah Barnwell in this time 2 years ago, when we were flagging the grain lorries that were going through the village, and to remind everybody what they, if they saw that mail, what the response was, which was that the 7.5 ton weight restriction, as Adrian's just mentioned, it doesn't apply to agricultural vehicles. It doesn't apply to vehicles that are delivering anything. It doesn't apply to vehicles that are collecting anything. It doesn't apply to vehicles that are on the way to do something. So I did suggest to highways, well, what other reason would a lorry ever have for going anywhere if it's not doing something along those lines? And essentially, it is not something that they enforce. It cannot be enforced. Every vehicle over 7.5 tons can give a legitimate reason why it's going straight through the middle of the village, and we couldn't get a banning of vehicles, because at the moment the vehicle says it says no over 7.5 tons unless for access. We couldn't get any specific traffic limitation measures that banned 7.5 ton vehicles or heavier goods vehicles going through the village, because if, according to highways, if we had them banned from going through our village, it just means they'd have to go through other villages that have got just as much right to not have excess vehicles going through there. So essentially we have what we have, which is an unenforceable weight restriction. We have 20-mile-an-hour speed limit signs up, which I've laboured the point in the past enough about the fact that they're not enforceable because we don't comply with a 20-mile-an-hour zone or a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit because of the signage. So we have the reality that we live in a village that has narrow streets and people that drive small vehicles and large vehicles too quickly through them.
You're absolutely right. And the difficulty is that there's very little you can do in terms of removing the cars to make the street wider, or minimizing the pavement to make the street wider. You can't do any of these things because you're just constrained with the space. So I know what the problem is. I just can't see at this point what the solution is.
There may not be one. John?
Well, part of the problem is that people have bigger cars now. There probably is another reason. Perhaps the lorries are also getting bigger, so there's a conflict there. But if we're faced with things that can't be enforceable, then we have to work on goodwill, do we not? And try to, well, again, it's about developing relationships, isn't it, with the companies, so that they respect the village.
You're right, Nick. I'm not even sure that there is an answer, but it needed raising.
No, and you're right. I mean, I should have declared an interest, known this from the agenda, but I'll declare it now. I mean, my own house, my thatch has been hit by a heavy goods vehicle about 6 months ago. Obviously, as you know, I'm on the narrow part of West Street. But even I would have to say that that was an incident. What happened to that lady's car was an incident. Is there an ongoing problem and a pattern? I don't know. Even I would have to confess, maybe not. I'm not happy about it. I'm livid. But is there a problem that needs to be rectified, or is there a solution? I can't think of one either, Adrian, to be honest. Dave and then Mark.
Yeah, so the only solution that I can think of at the top of my head, and it's probably a little bit draconian, but maybe, I think they're doing in Kettering, but they have like little markings on the road where you can and can't park. I mean, how would you feel about, I'm not saying double yellows, but maybe some like marking saying, yes, you can park here, or we recommend you park here. Would that be good? Because obviously then if you've got that little narrow bit right by your house, Nick, then if there's no markers on the road saying you can or can't park there, maybe people would feel less obliged to park there.
I think that it's a good suggestion, Dave. I think the problem is in both cases outside my house. Well, actually, I'm doing something about it. There is double yellows, but there was nobody parked. It was somebody up close to the thatch. But I think where this lady was parked, she was probably parked properly, as indeed everybody is down West Street. And if you start putting double yellows there, the cure is worse than the problem, because these poor people have got to walk miles for an incident that happens. A vehicle ploughing into them probably happens once a year, and it's HDV once every 5.
Oh yeah, I know. I certainly feel your pain, which is why I was going to say maybe just some lines of something just to say, hey, look, we recommend you park here. We recommend you don't park here. That's probably the best thing that I can probably think of. But other than that, I'll go back in my cage.
Don't worry. Mark.
Yeah, just to go on with the double yellow lines in West Street, when we did the road markings at outside your house in the 20 miles an hour, there was a suggestion at one point to extend the double yellow lines along West Street so that cars could actually see around that blind corner. The amount of outrage we had from residents in West Street was phenomenal. And you only have to look down West Street any evening. There is every parking space is used, no space. So putting the double yellow lines is just going to move the problem somewhere else. And in fact, you won't, because I'll just park on the double yellow lines, because they'll make the assumption they won't get prosecuted. What we did have, though, a few years ago, and when that lorry went down West Street, I was behind it on the main road trying to phone Rachel at Bounton, because we had an agreement with Bounton that they would tell all their subcontractors not to use Geddington for the grain store, but to follow the right route, which is either through Brixworth down that way from the 6003, I think it is, or through Grafton Underwood, which is the other designated route for Acrelands. I tried ringing Rachel, but she wasn't there on the Friday to get the trucks moved. But perhaps we need to write to Bounton again to remind them to get the grain lorries not to use Geddington as the rat run, because it's quicker.
Well, that's something, isn't it? Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, it is 2 years ago. That is exactly what we did 2 years ago about the grain lorries. And Rachel did recommit that, well, they have no powers over, because they're grain lorries. She insisted to not use that route. But she said that the tenant farmers who have grain lorries that use that route, she's got no power over them, but she did undertake to suggest, if at all possible, that they avoided the centre of Geddington.
Interestingly, their grain store came up for rent this morning. It just suddenly appeared on Rightmove for rent. There's a grain store.
Yeah, well, I think, look, Adrian, I think that's something then that we can do. We can write. It's not going to get rid of that ever happening again, but it might mitigate it. I guess the other thing we should just do, it's not just for West Street, but anywhere, is talk to residents, because once we've found that there is the same company or location that have hit something twice, then we can get a little bit more involved, I would suggest. I mean, this resident's doing the right thing now, thinks that they've found whoever it is. There's not much more we can do on the top of that. But I suppose if we've got more than one incident from the same entity or company, then we can write on the village's behalf.
Yeah, agreed.
It's not easy.
And I'm not taking anything away from the lady in question and the incident concerned, because it's a vehicle damage and there's a cost involved, whether it's they've got to repair it or their insurance. My concern is it's a vehicle this time, next time it might not be a vehicle, and it's a busy road. The children use it to school. There's a lot of blind spaces. That's my concern. That is this the thin edge of the wedge? But having said that, I don't know what the solution is. So it's all right me raising it, but I honestly don't know. So if you're happy with that point, I'll move on to the next point.
Yes.
Okay, this point's from me in the fact that Safer Roads team gave me some signs to put up. These are temporary signs that I have to keep moving, and at the moment they're on the main road. I put them up as you enter both aspects of Geddington, from the Corby end and the Kettering end, and they basically say, watch your speed, beware of your speed, and slow down. As I was putting them up, I was taking my life in my hands. Some of the vehicles, and I drive along New Road. I don't walk along it very often, but as I was walking along it, it was very clear that the majority of vehicles knew only too well that those speed cameras didn't work, because they were flying through the village. And it was incredible to see. I'm raising the point and we have to discuss it. I'm not really sure what the answer is, but those vehicles have got to slow down.
Peter?
Yeah, well, the closest we have an answer is essentially something that Adrian is in the driving seat for, which is the Speed Watch initiative, which is to have the mobile speed tracking, where we have the volunteers trained up using the camera and issuing warning notices, and subsequently it can be taken further as fines. But obviously the training program got put on hold totally because of the coronavirus. I don't know if anybody else has heard of that. So it's a
no, I haven't heard that at all. No, what's that?
There's been something about it in the papers. But the Speed Watch, Adrian, have we heard anything about the program being?
Yeah, I'm in touch with Gary probably every 6 weeks, and it's not happening this year at all. I mean, they're talking about May next year at the very earliest, because they've suspended the whole complete program. So
it's difficult to understand the logic of, I mean, when you're actually using the equipment, you maintain social distancing.
It's the training, though.
If it was the fact of doing the training, well, there's a lot of trainings taking place on lots of universities at the moment.
Yeah, it's
just as a suggestion. Like, I know it's not ideal, but like I've seen it in the past where people just go along with hair dryers and just imitate that being a speed camera. I kid you not, it does work.
Well,
I'll stand behind you, Dave.
Myself have donated our hair dryers, and
I'm not joking. It does work.
I mean, it's a good point, Dave. I think the problem is we couldn't ever sanction that, because if any violence emanated as a result of it or frustration, the person's really got no right there.
Yeah,
whereas if somebody's been on this Speed Watch course, they've been effectively accredited by a body affiliated with the police, etc., etc. And I think the good thing is that if any of our residents, I think there'd be a lot lower chance our residents were getting an altercation because they'll be properly attired with a proper piece of equipment, etc.
I just love that.
Proper training.
Yeah, sure.
I just love that. It was straight out of the Vicar of Dibley, parish councillors with hair dryers. It's fantastic.
Well, just lighten up the mood a bit, wouldn't it?
We've got 5 or 6 minutes left, so let's
It's a
just
very
try and
good
answer
point.
Adrian's point.
Yeah, it's a very good point. But without the training, we can't do that. And they're not running the training, whether they must have considered Zoom or other alternatives. And the answer is they're not doing the training until at least next year when they review it. So
It's ironic because someone that I know has got a speed awareness course and they are running them on Zoom apparently. So they are doing it. But
Someone you know, Dave?
Well, someone.
right,
I've
last
heard
point.
of, yeah.
Last point. So the last point was it's regarding the bridge, and I'm very, very sure that as a parish council, you have discussed this probably several times before. This came about because I was looking at the bridge, the work being done on the bridge, leaning over the bridge, and a number of people walked past me, asked me what I was doing. I said I was looking at the work, and the common question was, why can't you close the bridge to traffic? Now, I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there is a very, very good answer to that. And I'm sure you've discussed it before, but I'm here to raise it.
I'm not sure we have discussed it before as blatantly as that, but I, for one, am similarly interested. Does anybody know the answer to Adrian's question, Mark?
Yeah, it's up to highways. We have discussed it in the past. It was quite a while ago now, but it was discussed and suggested we built a footbridge separate. John and David and Claire remember. Paul Hopkins suggested we built a footbridge so we could close the bridge to traffic, or if we had to keep traffic on the road, then we had a footbridge that people could use and stay away from the traffic. But it is down to highways to make.
Sorry, I'm not following that.
We said no.
So it's a very good point, but I'm not following that, because why can't you just divert all the traffic through the ford and leave the pedestrians on the bridge? Why do you need a footbridge?
Highways are in charge. It's up to them to make the decision. Last time I asked them, not officially but unofficially, to find out whether they consider it, it was a flat no.
Okay, so suggestion, Chair. What about if I wrote to Highways in Historic England and put it to them?
Well, I'd suggest that the clerk does it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
fine.
well, I agree with Mark. I think it would be good, Adrian, to get those reasons in writing. But again, Anita, the question would be, the council is taking this kind of feedback, wants to discuss this at a full meeting. Could we please have your initial comments and thoughts on turning the bridge? This is both to Highways and to English Heritage, to pedestrian only. And then make any necessary changes to the ford, even though that is the official highway, to make that more roadworthy. And we just get their initial response. And as Mark says, they may just cut it away. But let's see what the reasons are in writing.
Just out of curiosity, what would you do, obviously, when the flood, we have to normally close the ford off? What would we do in that sort of situation?
I can only suggest that there might be the role of the flood warden would extend to putting a sign up at the end of Queen Street, West Street, Grafton Road, saying that there's no route through that part of the village. And you've just got to go round.
That bit would be closed off then.
Just the same as when they were doing the work on the bridge a few weeks ago.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I agree with Adrian. I've heard that a lot in my 6 years here, and I hear it more and more. I think that's the right action to do. Let's get that sound in first, because if for some reason there's an absolute cast iron no with a list of reasons why, okay, we may then go away. At least we know, we can tell people, but it may not be like that. We never know. That's a good point.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Adrian. 2 or 3 minutes left then. So Stone Pit Land Registry we covered. So Newton now, David, anything Newton wise?
No, all the houses are now occupied. Apart from that, no. Just, pristine roads. We haven't been damaged by Gigaclear.
Give it time.
Oh, I think in this case, you actually want them to damage it, don't you? To get some internet going in.
I like to think I'm positive, but at the same time realistic.
I think 6G will come quicker than UK cable.
We'd be grateful for 3.
Folks, anything for Little Oakley or any other business? No. Okay, thank you very much for your attention, everybody. Sue, we didn't get a chance to go through the actions, I'm afraid. For the length of these meetings, but fair enough. But I do think that we have got through a lot and we've resolved a lot, folks. So thank you very much, everybody. Much appreciated.
Cheers.
Have a good evening. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys.
you.
Bye now.
Good night.
Wow, 2 minutes early.